Yeah, I'll try.
Turn the page, you will see two graphs that illustrate the serious problem that a 245 represents today, in my opinion. One, the first one here says, and you can look at your sheet, but it says FHA 245 plan chart showing that as interest rates increase, now remember, the increased interest is added onto the principal balance, isn't it? The longer it takes to start to pay off, decrease the principal amount. Now, what is it? It's interest rate increases platted against the number of months before you start to pay it off. I only want to look at this first one here, Plan 1, and you will notice at 8% interest, it only took 12 months before you started to pay some of the principal off. At 14% interest, it now takes 4 years, 48 months before you start to pay some of the principal off. That's because of the increase in the interest rates, isn't it, Mary? The next one is even worse and really defeats the purpose of the plan for a lot of people. If you have the cash, great. This one here, okay, shows that as interest rates increase, okay, the minimum amount down payment required increases, in effect disqualifying potential purchasers. Now let's look at this. It shows increases in interest rate up to 14%, plotted against the amount of down payment. It shows that at 8%, now the 245 was never offered at 8%, it was offered at 8 to 8.25, and I interpolated it to get down to 8%. But at 8%, your down payment on the same house, the same problem we've been talking about all day, you would have only had to put $1,850 down. When it went to 10%, it went up to $3,350, okay? And then, when it went to 11.5%, our example that we did today, you can see it went to $4,850. At 14%, and you know it's at 15 today, at 14%, it's $6,350 down on that same piece of property. Now, what happens when you add closing costs and prepaids onto that? What does it have to tell you? It's got to tell you that you have a serious problem unless you qualify your people. If somebody doesn't have $9,000 or $10,000 today, there is really no way you can talk 245. So why spin your wheels with somebody, okay, and then find out he doesn't have the cash later on? Why not qualify him up front and take care of that problem? Also, if he does qualify, it may not be the best plan for him. Now, let me ask you something. With that in mind, all right, what are some of the advantages of FHA 245? Won't turn that. What are some of the advantages? There's not a whole bunch, but there are a couple.
First year, your payment's low.
Your first year payments can be a lot lower, can't they?
And as your income increases, you can handle that.
You can qualify for more, can't you? Okay, because you're only qualifying them on the first year, aren't you? And since the payment is lower in our formulas, right, the total available for family support by definition is going to be more, isn't it? Okay, what else? What other advantages?
It's also assumable.
Okay, an attractive assumption in the early years, isn't it? Someone can assume it, and he gets a heck of a low down payment, doesn't he? Now, I have it as a disadvantage in your book, but I think you could make a case where it could be an attractive assumption in the later years. How about somebody, because the principal amount has gone up, hasn't it? You have less cash to assume, but how about the guy, even though the payment is higher, he doesn't care, he just wants a tax write-off. He's going to use it as an investment. Okay, be perfect, wouldn't it? For that particular person. For someone with not, okay, for someone who cared about, the monthly, then it wouldn't be an attractive assumption for him.
I guess I don't get the whole thing. It seems to me that it's wiping out your appreciation for about 5 years.
We're talking about an investor, though, where he's just looking for how much cash is it to assume.
But I mean, as a plan per se, I can't see it because most people buy a home in order to have, when they sell it, an appreciation.
Yes, but you're making the classic mistake. The classic mistake in this is it's not a subsidized program. He owes the money anyway, okay? No one was giving him anything. And the other thing is he would never have gotten into the house anyway. Okay, would he? Because he qualified on the lower monthly down payment.
Well, it seems to me he's treaded water for about the first 5 years.
Well, everybody gets into this treads for a little bit. But do you understand what we're saying?
I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sold on it as a program.
Oh, well, that's, I might jump in that seat with you there.
Paying rent.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. You get a little tax break, yeah, but,
Well, it could be, yes, it's better than paying rent in that sense, for
that's
sure.
about the only thing.
Well, I mean,
You can
that's
make
the
sure
big
your
thing
rent
now.
is gonna increase on a yearly basis.
Okay, yeah, and rent increase is very good.
It
Good
scares
point.
me to have a house for resale at about the 4 or 5 year period, because it's then at an inflated value.
Well, it depends, yeah, but he owed it anyway, aren't you
Yeah,
following?
he
He got
owed
the
it,
break.
But the price of the house, I don't know.
Well,
I
hopefully
hear what
the
you're
house
saying.
is gonna keep
I'm not trying, by the way,
appreciating.
I'm not trying to push you into it. No. Let me ask you something, as a matter of fact. What about the disadvantages? Okay, let's talk about some of the disadvantages of the plan. Give me some disadvantages. Mary?
Well, my classic example, I wrote a contract on it, FHA assumable loan, I thought, but it was only 2 years old, or 3, the most, and my prospective buyer was concerned about the monthly payment, and also how much the loan would escalate to.
Right, for sure.
And he backed out.
Okay.
Well, he kind of inherits the problems that the first fellow has not paid off, but yet the first fellow never paid
Well,
off.
see, I look upon it differently, okay? You're looking at a glass of water half filled, and you're saying it's half empty, I'm saying it's half full, all right? He should be, okay, the government isn't supposed to give him a break. He owes this stuff anyway. He got in, okay, I think you can make a case that someone maybe got into a house that normally they wouldn't be able to get into because they qualified on the first year's monthly P&I. All right, so, it's just, I think it's the way you look at it. Now, whether you want to go out and sell the program is up to you. If you don't have confidence in a program, you'll never sell it. I have a lot of there's a lot of things I don't like about it. You can tell by the way I talk. There's a lot of things I don't like about it, and which hopefully some of this new 245B will attempt to correct, but it has a lot of things in it we'll talk about. Let's have some other disadvantages.
But back to Mary, where her man had lived in it paying a lower monthly payments, and then along comes somebody to buy it, and he's made off like a bandit.
Why is he made off like a bandit?
Because he hasn't had to pay what would have been his normal responsibilities, and he can walk away from it at that point.
Yeah, but his principal amount, on the other side of the coin, his principal amount, the payments he should have been making, we're added back on the principal now.
Yeah.
So he's not netting as much, is he, on the net sheet?
Actually, his
That's
loan is
right.
more than what it actually is.
Okay. All right, what are some other disadvantages?
Points.
Points. Okay, even with the differential, the points are pretty heavy.
And a half
What else?
percent extra interest.
Right, the insurance on FHA,
Right.
absolutely. So it's 15 plus a half now. What about refinancing? Okay, she brought up earlier when we were off camera. All right, you can't refinance it except as a 203. Otherwise, everybody would be leveraging out forever, right, on a refinance. Okay, what else?
Wait a minute, what do you mean you
You can't refinance it.
You can't
If-
assume it?
No, you can't refinance it. If you want to refinance a 245, you cannot refinance it as a 245. You can refinance it only as a
You
203.
can't go back to that extra low
Yeah,
payment.
monthly payment. That's, you see what's,
Refinance.
So when you get to the
Yeah, new
third,
loan. I mean,
okay,
refinance is just,
Pay it off and start over again with another buyer, though.
no,
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 same
you
person.
refinance it
Well,
yourself.
nobody wants to do that.
Okay,
John,
all right.
Anyway, they aren't gonna do that.
today, you take a 245
When do we
loan.
get that final test on her? Well, I can't wait to see her grade.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm not gonna take it. I'm gonna get a headache.
You get
That's
headaches.
all.
Getting ill.
I have cramps. Okay, go ahead. What? I'm sorry, Terry.
Question.
Mhm.
If you take out a 245 loan today at 15%, and next year the regular FHA is, say, 13%, at that point, can you refinance?
You can refinance any old time. It's a
No,
question of
too
whether it's
big.
worth it for doing right.
Well-
You have to sit down and net it all out.
Yeah.
At a certain point, it become worth it. How about this? If you turn to page 97, which the disadvantages are on, okay, it's not actually on this particular one, but you'll notice on the disadvantages that since your payments for certain people now, concerned with tax write-offs, since your payments are lower in the initial years under Plan 3, obviously, you don't get as many tax write-offs either, do you? So it could be a tax consideration here for somebody. Okay, what else?
Takes more cash than straight old.
Well, you're not kidding. All right. Anyway, we've seen some of the disadvantages in this plan. Now, if you turn to page 101, you will notice I have a blank sheet there. It's not blank, it's filled in, so that you all can use with your prospects. We're on page 101. With your prospects, okay, and just fill the stuff in. You just Xerox it for yourselves, and it'll help you do the 245, okay? All right. If you turn to page 102, there'll be no flips on this, but we will now talk about that lovely new program, the 245B. If you thought you were confused before, this will absolutely wipe you out. Now, before you even read it, if you look at me and pay attention, you'll catch on to the gist of it. It is a very difficult program. Two things. One, a disclaimer. I think, as I say, I know a lot about FHA. I've gone down, taken the material. There is very little material available on this program at this point in time that we're doing this. I've tried to get as much as I could. I have tried to clear the examples with the underwriters down there. It's just a question of confidence. There's so much going on down there. You never know when a mistake will slip in, okay? I'm not sure exactly what I'm getting back as far as, how do I put it? Anyway, all I'm saying is don't call me up 2 months from now and say, you run SOB, you told me this, you told me that, and everything. I've tried to get as much information as accurately as I could. I truly have. With that being said, if you stop and think about it, the 245A program had a couple, when we're talking about Plan 3 especially, had a couple problems, one of which you know, one of which you didn't think about. The one that you know is that it has such a high down payment, it actually hurt the people that it was trying to help, wasn't it? The other one, which is one of the reasons for the differential, is that the foreclosure rate is higher. It's a tougher program to deal with. It makes investors nervous, doesn't it? Can't you see on a basis you have a payment that's real low and then it increases every year and, you know, gets a little flippy. Every time you start doing something out of the norm, investors, okay, who don't truly understand the intricacies of this, they get nervous. When they get nervous, what makes up for that? Higher yield, okay? So there were problems with the 245A program, still are, especially at high interest rates, right? I think we'd all agree on that. So now they came up with the 245B program. It's complicated. To help you understand it, I want you to think of it this way. Do you remember when we were little kids and we go to the arcade and you put a penny in one of the machines and it would hit some nails going down? Hit a nail here and maybe knock the penny out, knock it down here, and then hopefully if it hit just the right types of nails or brackets, you get your penny back again. Well, think of the 245B as we're going through like that, as they're trying to knock certain people out. They want investors out. They want people who have too much cash they're not going to let in. People whose incomes are too good, we're not going to let you in. We're going to look for a specific type of buyer, one that we want to help. Who's the one we want to help? We want to help someone that doesn't have a lot of money, that needs to break on the monthly payments, who is going to have a stable job to make the increased payments as the years go on. That's the guy we want. Okay? And so as we go through this, you're going to see a lot of eliminating. Okay? Now, if you look at your books, and you'll see the specifications there. Look at number 2 instead of number 1. We'll start off that. Number 2 says that the program is limited to new or substantially rehabbed housing approved by the Secretary prior to construction or rehab. Okay, wham! Knocks that little old house out around the corner, doesn't it? That's the first thing. Now let's go to number 1. Number 1 in the specification say that the borrower may not have held title to a home within a 3-year period preceding an application for mortgage insurance. Wham! Knock some more people out. A. Individuals who are in a title as tenants by the entirety, tenants in common or joint tenants, shall be considered as having held title to a property and are not eligible under this program. Wham! Knock some more people out. B. In the event the application involves 2 or more borrowers, one of whom has held title to a property and the other has not, the application will be accepted. Woo, that sounds really good, doesn't it? Wham! However, in no case may the borrower retain an ownership interest in any other real estate. Wham! All right? Now, 3, only limited, don't worry about number 3. There is money available at this time. 4, not important. 5, listen to this. There must be an indication, must is underlined. Now this is FHA stuff now. There must be an indication that borrowers under the program have a reasonable opportunity for increases in income which will be commensurate but not necessarily equal to the increases in mortgage payment. you'll see an A there. The employer now has to give a letter to the mortgagee. Does everybody follow that? So they're underlining it. They're underwriting it a lot tighter, aren't they, Mary? They're looking for that boss who's going to give that letter saying Jimmy Jones